Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings. With me, as always, is your other host, Andrew Cabral. What's up, man?
What's up? What's up? How's it going?
Oh, just hell of a day. Hell of a day. Just tired.
Mondays are rough. I know we always record on Mondays these days, but today's also April Fool's Day, so
Yeah.
you got to dodge all the dumb jokes.
People doing shit just left and right. Apparently, somewhere nearby, somebody called in a fake shooter in the area.
Oh, that's
and all the
worst of
cops
April
were.
Fool's jokes.
Yeah, it's not a good one. The cops were everywhere with their guns out and everything, and I was like, yeah, somebody's gonna get in trouble.
Most definitely.
Yeah, long weekend. I had the Easter party to go, a birthday party for a 1-year-old, so a bunch of kids there, and I'm just exhausted, man. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, yesterday was the holiday, kind of threw everything off in terms of my usual schedule of Sunday.
Watching things.
Kind of, yeah. Because you have to. I don't know. I don't like the older I get. I don't like social engagements anymore, so I try to avoid them at all costs.
I used to be all
including
about
holidays.
I used to be all about going to concerts. God, going to concerts just feels like getting lost at sea or something. I don't want to go into the sea of people anymore. I don't want to do it.
Well, do you go? You get like floor seats, and you kind of.
I used to
in there.
And to me, but that's the thing is, like, to me, the only real way to experience it is when you're like in it.
Okay.
To me, going to a concert where you watching a guy that looks like an ant, and then like hearing it from a distance and seeing him like on a big screen, why am I paying hundreds of dollars for that? Like, that's, if I'm going to go to a concert, I'm going to go so that I can at least be close enough to see them in person without squinting my eyes. Like,
Yeah. Whenever I go to a concert, I always get like lower bowl seating, like lower arena, somewhat close to the stage because my eyesight sucks. Also, I figure if you're going to see somebody you've always wanted to see, you might as well see them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm the same way, but most things that I want to see, they're either in a coliseum now. They don't play small shows anymore. The people that I want to see, or I mean, I've done it I did it for years. I was in a band. I did it. I don't need to do it anymore. I'm done.
Yeah, I've done smaller venues, and then I've done like stadiums. I don't know, outdoor shows in big like football stadiums, like 68,000 people seat stadiums. Then you got all the people on the field as well, so the place is like, way more than that. The sound is so different, and the atmosphere is so different than when you're inside.
I prefer small venues, but then again, that's the most exhausting.
Yeah, I'm also stuck in between like metropolises. Like, I'm stuck in between New York and Boston. So all of the bigger people tend to skip over this area in general. So you have to travel a little bit to get to any cool shows for the most part.
Yeah. We got some regulars back with us, of course. David James, always watching us. Thanks for the greetings. Greetings to you, sir. Also, of course, Humboldt Horror Honey's always here. Thank you. Good to see you here. And they ask, who would you love to see now? I don't know. If we're talking like newer acts, I mean, like, I'm a big Cage the Elephant fan. I've seen him multiple times. Other than unfortunately, I don't get a chance to listen to it. We're watching so many movies. I'm not listening to a lot of new music.
See, I've noticed that you don't listen to a lot of. The thing is, I listen to a lot of older stuff.
That's me.
By older now, it's like stuff I listened to in high school, which was 20 years ago.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, like when I was growing up, I was listening to a lot of older classic rock, stuff like that.
It's classic now.
Well, it's even more classic now.
Like when I was growing up in the 90s, grunge had just started. So when grunge started in the early 90s, I was between like the ages of like 3 and 6. You know what I mean? So it's like super young. Unfortunately, a lot of those bands don't really tour anymore. I know Pearl Jam has got new music out now, a new album.
Like the hardest, but they never tour in America.
That'd be cool to see because I've seen all of my favorites. I've seen Aerosmith. I've seen Guns N' Roses 3 times. I've seen Lenny Kravitz twice.
That's cool.
I've seen.
I'd like to see somebody like like the Black Keys. I'd like to see.
That'd be cool.
I got really no. Fuck, I did see the Black Keys. I saw them when they toured with Kings of Leon. I saw Kings of Leon.
Oh my goodness, what a band from Blast from the Past.
Yeah. Well, they're still. They just got a new album coming out.
Well, I mean, like they had that one big hit song, like 14, 15 years ago.
That's if you're not paying attention to Kings of Leon.
Well, yeah.
First, real quick, first 3 albums really awesome. After that, not great. Which people would argue with me that because they got popular after the first 3 albums, and the 4th album's the one you're talking about, Sex on Fire.
Yeah,
that's Use Somebody. That's the songs that everybody remembers.
Those are the songs that were huge hits.
Yeah, like, and I don't care about them
to this
songs.
day.
Yeah, and they hate them songs
because that's all people want to hear.
Yeah,
that's all people want to hear. Even the classic of classic bands, they just want to hear the hits, really.
Yeah, but
every time the Rolling Stones tour,
there's a few cool newer bands that I've listened to that I can't think of them right now, but there are some newer acts I'd like to check.
The Foo Fighters would be pretty cool.
I've seen them.
That's kind of awesome. But every time they come around here, they only really play like Fenway Park.
And they're only playing big places. Like that.
Yeah. Like I told you, my first concert ever was U2, and that was local, so that was kind of nice. Keep in mind this was 2001. This was Halloween of 2001.
You know who Kim Gordon is? I don't know.
I do not.
Yeah, I don't know who Kim Gordon is. All right. Well, we should probably talk about movies.
Talk. Damn.
Yeah. We should.
I blame you for this one.
This is not chasing
music,
clef notes, or I don't know.
Can you read music? Because I could never.
I used to back when I used to practice, but not anymore. But we're here at spy number 136 of Chasing Labels. So, real quick, Sonic Youth. Yeah, I was gonna say. I didn't know who Kim Gordon.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Sonic Youth. Yeah, that's that's back to that grunge era.
I wish I could go back in time and see some bands. To be honest.
I wish. But we're on here, spy number 136 of Chasing Labels. Tons of shit have come out since the last time, especially even today. A lot of stuff's come out.
In the last 2 weeks, it's been kind of a free-for-all a bit. And then even today, I was telling Steven, up until like 8 o'clock our time, which is the Eastern time, people were announcing things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nonstop in a certain way. And I'm pretty sure though, it's the first of the month, so we start the cycle all over again. Yeah. Yay.
So we should probably get into it. Of course, some of the most recent stuff will be hard to have much to say because we haven't been able to investigate them. Even Andrew hasn't had much time to investigate them very much. But we'll run through some stuff and see what's looking good. So where should we start?
I'm going to start right at the beginning. Warner Archive. Warner Archive had their April releases, and then they snuck a late edition in last week, which was kind of sneaky of them.
They also had that sale going on that one website.
Yeah, Movie Zing. Movie Zing had a 4 for $49 sale, which is not as cool as the 4 for $44, which
nothing's as cool as that. Yeah,
because that just sounds more marketable, more it kind of rolls off the tongue a little better. Plus, you could get movies for $11, purchase like 12. So I went on there and I looked around. They had a lot of stuff on sale. Not a lot of the modern stuff, like stuff that had come out this year, not so much. But still, the catalog is getting so deep. Every single month is just filled with things now, including April. First up, the one that they did sneak in last week, that's going to come out April 30th, is an Anthony Mann film called Devil's Doorway, which is a cool title. It's a pretty cool title. I do like it. This is a Western by Anthony Mann, circa 1950. I want to get every Anthony Mann film, so I got to get this one. So that's why I included it here. It's a movie starring Robert Taylor. Robert Taylor as an indigenous person, so with not exactly the best representation. What is interesting about the premise of this film is that it's supposed to be a commentary on the white man's mistreatment of the indigenous population, which is well documented throughout American history. Yet they have Robert Taylor playing the lead character who is an indigenous person. So it kind of doesn't really quite add up. So Robert Taylor plays someone who fought in the American Civil War, then returns home to basically, live out his post-war life. But of course, it doesn't quite matter if you've served in the military or not. If you are someone who is of a different culture that white people don't like, they will they will go at you. They will persecute you. They will try to steal your land, which is the case here. He has this plot of land that's been in his family forever because they're native to that land, and of course, the American government institutes this idea of the Homestead Act, where you can basically claim land anywhere you want. Essentially, there's more to it than that. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, if you're an indigenous person, you're not allowed to do it because you're not considered a citizen of the United States. Racism right away. Racism and prejudice right
Hmm.
away. So basically, Robert Taylor and his people, the Shoshone, are fighting to keep this land, like both literally and figuratively. And that's kind of what the movie is about. And it's kind of apropos because there's, of course, a lot of indigenous, um, you know, uh, prejudice and hate that goes all the way up to this day. And this was back in the late 19th century. So it's a really good film, well directed by Anthony Mann. It's kind of gritty. Like I said, it's dealing with some pretty heavy themes. Yeah, I thought it was really good. That was really good.
Awesome.
Really good.
Yeah,
I
sounds
dig
good.
Anthony Mann westerns.
I'm always I just always there's something about Warner Archive, like it just it's one of them sad things about it's why it was so sad when it felt like Warner Archive was going to go away, because there's so many hidden gems I think in Warner's back catalog
Yeah.
that just need to see the light of day. And it kind of sucks that I mean, like, as much as I love these releases, it kind of sucks that they're all stuck there. I kind of wish we
Well,
could get more of
yeah. What
Warner's
is interesting
releases.
is a lot of these have been kind of stuck in the Warner Archive world, but they've been stuck in like made on demand DVDs.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was kind of Warner Archive's thing when they first started out. They were like, you can only order these from us because then we're going to make them on demand when you get them. So they're kind of burned on disc, which already um, isn't great for video transfers and video quality and stuff like that. But at least you would get these movies that were deep Warner Brothers catalog titles that
yeah.
obviously weren't going to get a mainstream DVD release at the time, and certainly weren't going to get a mainstream Blu-ray release until kind of this day. Warner Archive, we do treat as a boutique label, but it's a boutique label from a mainstream company.
Sure.
Um, so if anything, it works. But I wanted,
It essentially falls in line with Paramount Presents,
yeah,
technically.
and a lot
Yeah,
of even though Warner Archive started out as that made-on-demand DVD, all of the companies had those types of programs. Like Sony had it with like a lot of Columbia back catalog, Universal had it with a lot of their back catalog before they
yeah,
started doing the more of like sending out distribution rights to all these companies that we now cover in the boutique label world. Um, all of these companies were kind of doing that Warner Archive type of burn-on-demand DVD program. Now it's not so much a thing. Um, but I'm glad we're getting these Blu-rays. I
oh, of
really am.
course. Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean,
but moving on from there, we've got a couple of interesting ones that I wanted to point out. The Mask of Fu Manchu, I'm only going to point it out because it stars Boris Karloff.
yeah.
And if you have all the other Fu Manchu films,
I
I
was gonna
guess you
say,
kind of want to add this one.
I got the indicator set, and I'm like, and I know that that's the Christopher Lee, like them
Yes,
are the Christopher
the
Lee,
later ones. Yeah.
Fu Manchus. But I'm like, man, I got all these Fu Manchus. I kind of want to get the Boris Karloff Fu Manchu now. Like, why not? I mean,
Yeah, I know it's not a great movie.
yeah,
It's from 1932. It's a pre-code film, which is always cool to me. But Boris Karloff is, once again similar to Robert Taylor, coincidentally in Devil's Doorway, playing someone of another culture that he's not a part of. They make him look like Fu Manchu in a very
yeah,
stereotypical, Asian makeup and all this kind of prosthetics and whatnot. I mean, in the Devil's Doorway, they in some scenes Robert Taylor has a very deep tan, and to make him look
yeah,
indigenous, and then other scenes he doesn't.
yeah.
It's very, very
When,
weird.
when
Uh,
are you gonna go Fu Manchu, like, for real? Like,
uh,
we won't
Probably
judge
never.
you.
I mean, I keep the goatee, one, because I've had this goatee since I left high school in 2006.
Why
Because
why
in
why no
high
change?
in high school, they had a clean shave policy because I went
Okay,
to a private school. So no
gotcha.
one could have facial hair. No one could. I don't think anyone could have long hair. Obviously, the girls could, but I don't think the guys could. So if anything, it was a protest after to that. And then I've had it since 2006 and I've never gotten rid of it. And then part now it's kind of an homage slash tribute to Orson Welles because he
Really?
had a goatee for a
Okay.
good portion of his life, especially later on when he when he was in like doing F for Fake, and he was dressed up as a magician and doing like magic tricks in that movie. I always like to think that one day I'll pull out the full Orson Welles F for Fake cosplay. I feel like that's a thing.
I mean, David thought you were Fu Manchu at first.
Oh, not really. No, no. It's Orson Welles. That's what I've been telling people for years. And if people don't know who Orson Welles is, I guess it's kind of a plays into the mystique of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, this. Oh, thank you, Humboldt. I do like random compliments from people, so that's nice.
Yeah, it looks good, man. It looks good.
Thank you very much. So this is, of course, getting a 4K restoration.
Yeah.
It comes with the classic cartoons, Freddy the Freshman, and I think the Queen was in the parlor. I don't know if that's a classic cartoon, but Warner Bros. Used to add that as special features, like classic cartoons.
Yeah.
But the real highlight of this slate for me are these next two films. Okay. You're a Big Boy Now and The Rain People.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And the reason why these are so important, I think, because these are both early Francis Ford Coppola films from the 60s.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah.
Especially You're a Big Boy Now is from like 64, which is super early.
Do we know if this was like part of all these new restorations he's been doing? Did they do it?
My guess is it must be. Yeah. Remember we had James McCoskey on from American Zoetrope, and I know he's been working
on everything,
on a lot of things that he's been hinting about coming soon. I mean, obviously, we just got that recent Coppola film, which just got a 4K release, which came out recently. That one from the 80s.
It's like something with heart in the title. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's like it's not Whisper of the Heart. I don't know why I'm thinking of that. But I'm gonna look it up just because I don't want to do. Speaking of which, Megalopolis, his newest film, just got screened for like 300 of his like friends and people, and apparently they loved it. But if you're gonna invite,
they're his friends.
Yeah, if you're gonna invite 300 people, who a special invite, you better hope these people are gonna like it. But I
better like it.
I can't wait to see it, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've heard. I have a feeling it's gonna be so. The movie's gonna be so annoyingly artsy.
Oh, I have a feeling. Yeah. I mean, he put $120 million into this film, and he wanted to make it exactly the way he wanted to make it. He's at that stage in his career where he just obviously wants to make it exactly the way he wants. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you put out your own money into it, I mean, it's all
there's
about
nobody
control.
telling you can't do it. Yeah. Because it's usually the money people who make you have to do things.
And apparently, he's talking about how this is in his last movie now. He's saying he wants to make something else. Yeah.
Good. The movie we were talking about is One from the Heart. That's the one that got a 4K
Heart,
release recently. And I know James McCoskey's working on other stuff as well.
So I guess maybe this is something he did a while back ago, and Warner's finally putting it out. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else is left for, because they put out The Godfather, they put out Apocalypse Now, they put out The Outsiders. Rumblefish has got a Blu-ray release at this point.
Yep.
Dementia 13 just had another Blu-ray release that came out recently.
Yeah, it was.
So now you're going backwards. Now you're going back to the early stuff. Yeah. You're going back to Your Big Boy Now, and then The Rain People. The Rain People, I think a lot of people know of more, just because if you've watched any documentary about 1970s American cinema, they talk about Coppola. They talk about him working on The Rain People. I had no idea what the film was actually about.
Yeah, I
didn't. Then I watched it, and I'm like, oh, this movie's a lot different than I thought. But first, You're a Big Boy Now is a kind of coming of age film. Well, it is a coming of age film.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of right in the title. So this young man who is basically trying to figure out life, for the lack of a better term, and for all of its kind of trials and tribulations of a young man, specifically someone who is coming of age, not only mature wise, but also sexually as well. And he gets involved with two different women. One of them is actually portrayed by a very young Karen Black. She's his father runs like this museum or library or something like that, and he works there, and she's the secretary that works there. They have this flirtatious, like, nice, innocent relationship. It's a very like age-appropriate relationship. You know what I mean? Like, they're both on the same level in terms of sexual maturity and all this kind of stuff. That's the relationship you want. You know what I mean? But of course, young men at that time, they want to go a little wild. So he ends up uh, kind of getting involved with an older woman who I believe is like an exotic dancer, like an adult dancer and stuff like that. And she's obviously way more experienced with life and things like that. And he's just kind of head over heels in love with her because he's a young immature idiot. You know what I mean? So you've got all of these things kind of light slice of life things happening at the same time. It's rather interesting and rather a time capsule of the time, but also rather contemporary. Because I don't know, when you and I were growing up, Steven, we were kind of idiots around that age as well. You
No,
know what I mean?
no,
Late
no,
teens, like early adulthood, trying to figure things out, getting in relationships, in and out of relationships, all this kind of
not
stuff.
really. No.
I know, neither do I. I'm just trying to paint a picture here.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Trying to save face here.
I'm sure we did that stuff.
Yeah. So it's
No,
super familiar.
I mean, it was either that or I was at home playing video games or,
I know.
or watching movies or working at the movie theater at that time, actually.
Yeah, in 2000, I would have been 20 in 2007. So I was probably, I don't know, watching movies, I guess, or not even. I was in college suffering, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, it's got all the coming of age tropes that you've seen, but even though it was made in the 60s, it's still rather contemporary. But the Rain People is something completely different, like tonally and visually and just in general. Um, so I also, yeah, let me get over to, I'm losing my space here. Let's see what the Rain People is about. So this Rain People is a very existential film, and I wasn't expecting this to be so existential. I thought it was something completely different.
Thought it was like an Aquaman movie or something.
Not really, but I don't know what I thought of when I think of the Rain People. But when a housewife finds out she is pregnant, she runs out of town looking for freedom to reevaluate her life decisions. So the movie stars um, James Caan, Shirley Knight, Robert Duvall's in the film, a very young Robert Duvall. And so this woman finds that she's married, she finds out she's pregnant, she kind of freaks out about it, has an existential breakdown crisis, and just leaves. She just straight up leaves, and she picks up a hitchhiker along the way. She's just driving west, just absentmindedly driving west, kind of not knowing where she's going and not knowing what she's doing. And she picks up a hitchhiker. The hitchhiker happens to be James Caan. Well, not the James Caan, but it's a character
Sure.
portrayed by James
It
Caan.
wasn't him. Okay.
And he's someone who's also kind of drifting through life as well. He was like a football star in college, and then he suffered a head injury, and he was forced to no longer play football, and he's kind of has a little bit of brain damage. They don't really get too much into it in the movie. I don't know whether it's because of just the lack of the knowing the health science of the time, or whether they just didn't want to discuss it too much. But you kind of just get certain ideas that he's not quite all there mentally because of this brain injury that he received while playing football. And they kind of travel the country together. And it's a bit of a road movie, existential movie, very, very good. And along the way, she ends up meeting Robert Duvall, who plays this cop who's also kind of an asshole as well. And it's an interesting kind of film. I feel like he was very influenced by like why am I not Rebel Without a Cause, although kind of existential in that regard. But
Marlon Brando.
I'm thinking
James Dean.
I'm thinking of why can't I remember it? Drawing a blank. The movie directed by Dennis Hopper.
The last movie.
No. Why am I thinking of the song "Born to Be Wild"? Easy Rider. That's
Easy
why.
Rider.
I'm thinking of the song
Christ.
"Born to Be Wild." Don't ask me why. But yeah, Easy Rider, kind of like that existential trip across country. And I think the movie came out around the same time. But it's interesting, kind of what Coppola's doing with these two early films. Is he's kind of going through life existential crises moments in completely different fashions, different context. Really, really good film. I think The Rain People. I would highly recommend checking this one out, and even his earlier stuff. If you're a Coppola completist, I think you'll like it. So those two are must gets for me, just because I've got all of Coppola's other stuff except I don't have Jack. Jack, just the Blu-ray.
What the hell are you doing? Why don't you got Jack?
I don't have that. I don't have Twixt. Which is the movie he came out with 10 years ago, that vampire movie, which he just recut and put out again, which we talked about. here. And he retitled it Betwixt. It
Yeah.
was a movie starring Val Kilmer as a vampire. I've never seen
Yeah.
the film. Yeah, he wanted to try something specific with that film, which I didn't think he was able to pull off. So he just kind of put it out there. So, but I gotta check it out. So that's those two films, and then what else is here? Oh, The Nun Story. This is a great release month. The Nun Story starring Audrey Hepburn. I have this on DVD. It's a Fred Zinnemann film. This is an instant upgrade for me. Like, I'm so damn happy this is coming out. Great film. You don't want to talk about existential crisis. This movie is fantastic. Like I said, starring the one and only Audrey Hepburn, Fred Zinnemann. The Nun Story is an unforgettable revelation of the seldom seen world behind the convent walls. This landmark motion picture classic stars a radiant Audrey Hepburn portraying a nun whose life journey takes her from the staff of a mental asylum to a much desired position as a surgical nurse in the Belgian Congo. But when she returns to her native Belgium as World War II breaks out, she is torn between the needs of the resistance and the church's neutrality. Man, it's a great film. Great film. It was nominated for 8 Oscars, including Best Picture. It's a fantastic film. Unfortunately, I don't think the DVD had any special features, and this doesn't have any special features either.
And this is what I'm talking about. This is why I kind of wish some of their films could get released by some other people that are going to actually invest a little more.
That is the drawback with Warner Archive, is they don't really produce new special features that they haven't already produced before for a DVD release. That seems to be the game. What they make up for is that the movies do look amazing on Blu-ray for the most part. So that's kind of the trade-off, I guess. That's why I kind of wait till they're on sale. You know just
want the movie, then you're gonna get you'll get the movie that looks good.
I wait for a certain price point for me personally, and I'm like, that's too good of a price point to pass up. It's usually around the $10 range. If I can get it close to that number, I feel like that's a good value for this. Especially if it's an upgrade like The Nun Story. Friendly Persuasion is another interesting film here in this slate because it's another film that I saw on DVD so many times in stores over the years and was wondering if it was ever going to get a Blu-ray release. It's a William Wyler film from the mid-50s. And it's a William Wyler film dealing with an interesting premise, starring Gary Cooper, who's ever stoic in this film, and he's always stoic in general. I don't know. Over the years, the more Gary Cooper I've seen, I more realize how stiff of an actor he can be. He's kind of like he's very much a very, like I said, stoic actor. And he was like that throughout most of his career, pretty much all of his career. But in this film, he's kind of has to play that role. He plays a man who is a Quaker during the Civil War. And if you know Quakers, they're pacifist. They don't fight. So of course the Civil War breaks out, and he's kind of torn between having to fight and not having to fight. And there's confrontation between him and the local people, him and his family. What's his name plays his son in this film, and this was right before he was in Psycho, and that is Anthony Perkins. So Anthony Perkins plays his son, and Anthony Perkins, of course, is kind of young and jubilant, getting caught up in the whole, fever of war and stuff like that. So he wants to fight. That creates a conflict between him and his father. It's an interesting kind of movie like that. But even just telling you the premise of it, you can kind of understand the type of movie it is. It's a rather safe film, rather safe depiction of this conflict, of the Civil War, and these themes of willing to fight, not willing to fight. For me, a movie that is similar to it, but I think is a lot better, is Shenandoah with Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart, I think, is just a better actor doing this kind of thing, doing this kind of pseudo-Western, even though Shenandoah is more of a Western. And in that film, he basically just wants to remain neutral just because he doesn't want to fight at all. And he's basically forced into things. He's forced into the war because of certain circumstances. What would make it interesting? You know what's interesting, Stephen? You know the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson?
Of course I do.
Shenandoah is kind of similar to that. That would make a nice double feature.
No, I think I think we talked about it.
Did we talk about it? Yeah,
I think we talked about it.
In The Patriot, Mel Gibson doesn't want to fight, but he's kind of forced into it.
Yeah.
Due to certain circumstances.
Well, it's Well, it's because he fucking shredded some people back in the day, and he's like, I'm trying to move on from that. And then his son's like, I want to go to war because it looks cool.
Oh, you mean a young
Heath Ledger?
Heath Ledger.
Yeah,
that's a good cast in that film. Heath Ledger, Mel Gibson,
Jason.
What's his name? Plays the main bad guy.
Jason Isaacs.
Always plays a great bad. He's a great actor. I do not have the movie Tetro, but I've always wanted to see it. That's the Coppola film that I think he did before Twixt. And that's the one with Vincent Gallo, I believe.
That's what it's. Yeah,
from 2009. I've been curious about this movie for years. It's in black and white. You know who's in that movie in very young, early role is Alden Ehrenreich. That's really young. This is years before he was in that Coen Brothers movie, Hail Caesar. Before he was like almost a decade before he was in Solo. He's making a little bit of a comeback now. Good for him.
Yeah.
After Solo, he was in like actor purgatory, I guess.
He shows up in Oppenheimer.
Yes, but he was also in Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, that's the comeback movie right there. Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear and Oppenheimer. They go hand in hand.
That's gonna get him back in the spotlight.
He was great in Oppenheimer, but I haven't seen Tetro. But I really want to. I have to boost up my late Coppola collection. I don't have a lot of his later stuff.
Oh, you need Jack.
I do, and I do need Jack. You know what? I watched that movie when I was a kid. When did it come out? Like 96? I was probably like 9 years old. That's like the perfect age to watch that movie.
Yeah,
it's the 90s. It's Robin Williams playing a kid because he's got that disease that's going on in that movie. A lot of people crap on that movie because, it's by an objective consensus, it's probably not well done. But when you're watching it when you're 9 years old and you're wrapped up in the wonderment of Robin Williams' childlike, demeanor, you like it. You know what I mean?
I loved it. I watched it so much growing up.
Yeah, it's kind of what's interesting is another Robin Williams film from the 90s that if you see it now, a lot of people don't like is Hook. The Steven Spielberg film Hook.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, Steven's one of them. I saw it in the theater back in 91 when I was 4 years old. So I have that context.
I try, and the thing is, I've tried rewatching it. I've given it multiple chances, and I'm like, this just doesn't work for me. Like it's just boring. And I love Robin Williams is my favorite actor.
Right. Did you see it back in 91 or no?
Dude, I was too young.
I forgot you
we were literally 2 or 3 years old. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you were literally been like 2 years old.
Yeah.
But even seeing it on VHS back in the day.
But I did watch it growing up, and then I liked it. Now I'm like, no, I'm fine. I don't need it.
Huh. Yeah, that happens a lot.
And I'm a Spielberg fan too. And it just doesn't work for me. It's just not. I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's just maybe it's just a little too. Maybe it's such a cynical version of the story that I just it puts me off.
It's interesting. They've done so much with Peter Pan over the years. I just saw someone.
Maybe I just don't like Peter Pan.
I just saw somebody said they bought the 4K the other day. I'm insanely jealous because I've been wanting it for years. I'm slowly upgrading my Steven Spielberg section. Like I just bought Raiders of the Lost Ark. I just bought Temple of Doom. I need to get Last Crusade. Coincidentally, I actually got it right here. I just bought Lost World Jurassic Park in 4K. I actually bought this from Morbid DVD. I think it was the last one they had. I had it in my wish list for so long.
Guess you just don't go for the box sets because you're just like why?
I had the box set on of 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, Spielberg didn't direct the third one, but I had the box set for the DVD. I had the box set for Blu-ray, and then when the 4Ks came out, I'm like, I want to buy them individually. So that's kind of what I've been waiting to do. So I'm slowly making my way through that. But I actually never owned The Lost World growing up. That was one. How I got a slip is that's why I held out so long is to get one with the slip, because I was scouring eBay for probably the last year or longer to find one with a slip. Can't do it. Nobody's selling them. So I don't know how Orbit DVD still had one with a slip all this time, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy it. I'm just gonna get it.
Yeah, or Orbit in places like Diabolic, they let you know that they have slips on them.
Sometimes Diabolic does. Sometimes Diabolic
they're not
doesn't.
as good about it as Orbit.
Grindhouse Video does. They tell you if something has a slip or not, them in orbit typically. But yeah, how I got it with a slip seems like a miracle at this point because I think this came out, what, 3 years ago at this point? So I'm incredibly lucky. Because I'll hold out for the slip covers. You know how I am, Steven. You know how I am.
We all we have good intentions to be like, look, it's all about the movie, but then when we're collecting, we're like, we want the best version of that thing. So we want the slipcover. And then when we can't get it, we're like, Andrew will just wait. He'll just wait forever.
Yeah, I'll wait till the end of time. People do sell the slipcovers individually on eBay. Sometimes very, very expensive. Sometimes not. I haven't bought not once upon a time. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the Kino 4K release because I can't find the slipcover for like under a certain amount of money. Like it's absurd what they sell it for on eBay. I did just get the Kino 4K release of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the one from the 70s. I know, Steven, you just got the Arrow release of that. And I've been trying to get the Kino release for the last 3 years, and I'm like, this has been a goal, so I'm gonna get it. And I did. So hopefully it comes this week.
I know you, but the funny thing about that is you talked about it so much on this show
annoyance. When it got announced,
annoyance.
But they kept like posting about it like over and over again. So I'm like,
to annoyance. We literally talked about it like 5 times on the show.
And it took me 3 years to buy it.
And then he took this long to buy it. And you're like, you fucking kidding me? I had to go through all that.
Yeah.
Talking about the same movie because they kept posting it. I'm like, dude, we've talked about this movie. We don't need to talk about it again. Yeah, but they posted it again.
Yeah,
no, we don't need to do it.
And then Arrow released it. So it took me so long to get it that another company released it in 4K.
Yeah.
But last thing here on this Warner Archive slate, back to the task.
Yeah, God, we spent the whole show so far on talking about this label.
Stuff.
We're gonna speed this up, buddy.
We're gonna speed this up. So the last one here is a double feature of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island and Return to Zombie Island. I got my collecting habits. One of my biggest collecting and longest collecting goals has been to buy everything from Hanna-Barbera. So I'm going to have to get this eventually.
3 years from now.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is actually pretty great. It's actually one of the few times where the things that they're fighting or that's chasing them is actually real and not just people dressed up in costumes. And it's actually super meta as well. Like they comment on that whole thing, how like
just spoiled it for me.
Their whole career has been them like, those I would have gotten away if it wasn't for these pesky kids. But it's like, oh, now they got to face something real.
I know.
Which is kind of fun.
You
they're down in the bayou hanging out with zombies and stuff. I love Scooby-Doo. I always have. I even have like Scooby-Doo like stuffed animals from back in the day.
Who do you identify with? Scooby?
I do like sandwiches. And I guess I do like ghost stories. Yes.
Yeah. Because I know you're not. I know you're not Scrappy. You're not a pothead.
No,
I'm not Scrappy,
Shaggy.
but what's his
Shaggy.
name? Shaggy. You're not Shaggy. So,
although I do like the live action James Gunn films. I've always wanted to get them in my collection. I remember when they came out in theaters. I think I saw either the first or second one in the theater. I can't remember, but those were like great adaptations of like what a live action cartoon would look like. It would be ridiculous. It would be incredible. And so I've always wanted to get this, and apparently there's like 40 Scooby-Doo movies, just movies. I'm not talking the TV series as well. So there's a ton of Scooby-Doo content because they've been around since I think 68 or 69. Like it's a long-standing franchise for Scooby-Doo. They're still making stuff to this day. So moving on from there, let's get out of Warner Brothers area. Let's go over to Steven. Where are we thinking?
How about let's just go through Kino real fast.
Yes. So literally the day after we talked about Dangerous Game, the Abel Ferrara film that's coming out from Vinegar Syndrome, Kino announced they're putting out Bad Lieutenant on 4K. The 1992 film starring Harvey Keitel as this dirty cop, you could say.
Pretty dirty.
Yeah, pretty dirty. I've never quite figured out if the Nicolas Cage Bad Lieutenant film is kind of a remake of this, even though it's set in a different place, but it's also about a dirty cop.
It feels like it's definitely inspired in some way. I feel like, but I don't think it's supposed to be a remake. I don't think it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They're very similar characters. They're both
Yeah.
like unhinged cops. This is coming out May 21st. It's a 2-disc edition, 4K UHD plus a Blu-ray. I've got some special features on here. There's a new interview with the cinematographer. There's an audio commentary with Abel Ferrer and the cinematographer. Brand new HD master from a 4K scan of the original camera negative. This is going to look hopefully really good. The Blu-ray, which came out forever ago, I remember looking pretty good. But this is also like a dark movie. I remember taking place a lot indoors, super dark. There's a very graphic scene in this film that takes place in a church. Fair warning for that. Also, uh, full frontal Harvey Keitel nudities in the film as well. If you need to be aware of that, I guess. It's Abel Ferrer. You just gotta like be aware that it's his type of film. We talked about Abel Ferrer with Tony Michas on the recent on Watch Pile as well. So yeah, if you know Abel Ferrer, you kind of understand his thing. But moving on from there, from Kino, we've got some other things that I weren't really interested in. Pursuit is officially coming out May 28th. I know, Steven, you definitely were interested in that.
Yeah.
And we've got The Chase, the one from 1946, not the one with Marlon Brando from the 60s, I think. A different film. This film is who directed? Directed by Arthur Ripley. This is actually a re-release of the 2016 release that they had put out. Just this is getting a dual layer disc, and I think that's about it. And this has actually a film commentary. This has a commentary by Guy Madden. That's kind of why I want this. Guy Madden, of course, the director. He has one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most iconic Criterion Closet videos of all time. I call him the Bag Man because he has a bag and he just keeps putting stuff in the bag and he says "bag" every time. It's hilarious. But I dig this film. It's a film noir from the 40s. I haven't seen in a long time. Its movie stars Robert Cummings, who was in Hitchcock's Saboteur, and he becomes involved with another man's wife in the movie, if I remember. It's like it says Robert Cummings stars as Chuck Scott, a down on his luck veteran who lands a job as a chauffeur to a sadistic millionaire, portrayed by Steve Cochran, and his reptilian bodyguard, portrayed by Peter Lorre. That's very specific. And very demeaning. Scott plays white knight to his boss's suffering wife, stealing her away to Havana. Obviously, things get more complicated from there. So you've got femme fatales, you've got things going on in here. It's good. I definitely recommend it. Moving on from there, let's see. Saigon is a movie I haven't seen, but it stars Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake. And
you're all about some Alan
I'm all
Ladd.
about Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake. They have a good team up together in certain film noirs. Obviously, this may not be quite a film noir, although he is holding a gun in the cover art here. And Veronica Lake, I think, is one of the best femme fatales of all time. It's never been released on home video, so this is a very unprecedented release. It's got a new audio commentary from Lee Gambit and Alyssa Rose. It's got slipcover, it's got a new 2K scan, but I'm definitely all about some Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake. And then we've got a modern film, and this is the movie Bottoms, which came out last year, starring Rachel Sennett, Ayo Edebiri, who won every single award for her role in the television series The Bear last year. And this movie's directed by Emma Seligman, who directed Shiva Baby, which was one of my favorite films the year it came out. And Shiva Baby had a Blu-ray release from one of the partner labels. I can't remember which one it was. I have it too, but it's on my shelf over there. Maybe I'll get to when we talk about Vinegar Syndrome later. But yeah, Bottoms is kind of a raunchy comedy of teenage girls in high school, with a great cast, and it is. I found it to be rather funny, rather meta, rather weird, over the top in kind of the craziest way, but good. But I thought it was very good. So that's really cool if that's coming out. So I think that's kind of it from anything from Kino.
Okay.
Moving on from there. Let's see. Let's go. Do you want to talk about Severin, Steven? Because I know you're excited about this one.
of course.
Because
I
we got a
mean,
box set. And you're a box set man.
I'm a boxing man.
Box
I feel
set
like there's a
man.
song there.
There's a song in there somewhere.
Well, it's I'm thinking about the Doors song "Backdoor Man," but
Me too, actually.
yeah.
Me too, actually.
I might have to adapt that and do Box Set Man.
Talk about going back in time to watch a band. That would be quite crazy.
Quite an experience you probably wouldn't remember the next day.
No. It would be hypnotizing in the wildest way possible. But Severin's coming out with an interesting box set that's a volume 1. It's an 8-disc set. It's called The Game of Clones, Bruceploitation Collection Volume 1. This thing is selling like hotcakes right now, from what I understand. So this is a combination of the documentary that was directed by the head of Severin Films. Who's the head of? Is it Stephen Gregory?
David Gregory.
David Gregory. I got your name on my mind constantly.
Yes, I know, it's weird.
Yeah, I had it. Yeah, I don't know. So David Gregory, and he directed the movie called, what was it called? Game of Clones.
Yeah.
And it's about the kind of phenomena in the post Bruce Lee world of all of the like fake Bruce Lee movies that came out.
Well, his movie's called Enter the Clones of Bruce.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think I got Game of Thrones.
Game of Clones is the name of the set.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I lost my tab. There it is. So the first disc in here, I believe, is Enter the Clones of Bruce.
Yeah.
From 2020,
which is very similar to how they set up the folk horror set.
Yes.
You know, where they started off with that new documentary that was directed by Kayla Janice. So yeah, I mean, they're doing the same thing where they're kind of giving you a documentary about the subject matter, which is a great primer to get you ready to watch all these films. So I love it. I love the setup. So, and you know, this is something where this genre, these fake Bruce Lee knockoff movies, is something where I think probably some of us that maybe watched stuff like this when we were growing up probably were thinking these were Bruce Lee movies, but they weren't. You know what I mean? Because at the time you were not really thinking about. You just think, oh, I've seen Bruce Lee, yeah, because some of these guys look very similar and they act, of course, very, very much like Bruce Lee. And at the time, you're probably not thinking like. You just think they're Bruce Lee movies.
To be honest, I had a Bruce Lee, in quotes, movie on VHS back when I was a kid, and it's probably in a closet somewhere here. And I've been trying to track it down for years because it may have been one of these, these clone-esque films of Bruce Lee, because it's not one of the, I think, 4 films that he made while he was alive. But I remember the plot of it distinctly. It's like him and a band of guys going around and like fighting different people until they get to like a main bad guy at the end. And the movie ends with like Bruce Lee like laughing and like holding his leg as like a bunch of bodies are around him, and he's like, and that's how the movie ends. I haven't seen this movie in 30 years, but I used to watch it all the time as a kid because I wanted to watch Bruce Lee movies. And back in the 90s, they had a bunch of them on VHS, like everywhere. Like you could buy Bruce Lee VHSs at the supermarket back in the day. Like these were always around. Like I had Game of Death. On VHS back in the day. Now over the last few years, we've talked about it so much. So much of his stuff is just getting released and re-released, and it's always the same movies over and over again. You know, Arrow just had that 4K box set from last year. Enter the Dragon has had a number of Blu-ray releases plus a 4K from Warner Brothers. We've had the Shout Factory releases from years ago as well, which I have some. But yeah, this whole set is fascinating. You can actually go on to the Severin Films YouTube channel and watch the trailers for all of these movies, and just kind of get a sense of what they are and what they're all about. But going back to this set, it is an 8-disc set with, I think, 15. It's 15 movies, including the documentary.
Yeah. So
the first disc has Enter the Clones, Story of Bruce Lee. The second one has The Clones of Bruce Lee from 1980 plus Enter 3 Dragons from 1978. The third disc has Enter the Game of Death, Goodbye Bruce Lee, His Last Game of Death. You're getting a bit of a trend here. The Dragon Lives Again from 1977. Bruce Lee and the Iron Finger are on disc 4. Disc 5 is The Challenge of the Tiger, as well as Cameroon Connection from 1984. Super Dragon, the Bruce Lee story from 1974, and The Dragon Lives from 1976. That's disc 6. The Dragon, the Hero from 1980. Rage of the Dragon from 1980. That's disc 7. Disc 8 is a web store exclusive limited edition bonus disc, The Big Boss Part 2 from 1976, as well as The Dragon vs. the Yellow Tiger from 1974. So you've got tons of stuff on here. I think each movie at least has one special feature. I think they all have commentaries. If I'm just going through it right away, most of them have commentaries.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of scrolling up and scrolling down here just to make sure. But yeah, this is a big box set, cool artwork. Like I said, it's selling pretty quickly.
I know the bundle's already sold out.
Yes.
I
think that's probably what I'm referring to.
But yeah, I mean, what's interesting about this, of course, multiple actors played these different knockoffs films, and it's one of them things. Funny enough is like I remember the first time I think I was exposed to anything Bruce Lee that made me like think about Bruce Lee was Family Matters.
Oh Urkel. My goodness, what a callback.
With Urkel. And yes. Urkel turns into Bruce Lee through his machine. And that's the first exposure to what Bruce Lee was, And what's interesting too is like you think about it today, like nobody would be able to get away with basically knocking off the image of another actor and being able to do it over and over again. And yeah, like
you mean like in a movie or in a TV?
That's what I'm saying. In a movie, like it's like today you got all this stuff about image rights, like people's like image.
I mean, we talked about this before on the podcast. Remember the whole controversy in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah,
with that depiction of Bruce Lee was
I mean,
ridiculed by many people.
Well, I'm not even talking about like how it makes the person look. What I'm saying is like we have like people have rights to the way they look, literally look. Like they're likeness rights.
Yeah, if an actor, passed away now, I don't know if we would be getting. It's such a unique thing as well. I don't know if we would be getting movies like these types of knockoff movies with another actor.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
you know what I mean? Like, it's so interesting culturally, interesting part of film history, where this is the iconography of Bruce Lee is so big internationally, worldwide, to this day. But just at the time in the post Bruce Lee world, like they were trying to capitalize off of his image. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't see that today from any other icon. I say that, but they're still trying to. For example, biopics will come out about someone who's passed away.
Well, biopics are biopics,
and but this is even different. This is it's so unique because it's like
they're trying to make money off.
They're not making like movies about Bruce Lee. They're making movies with people who look like Bruce Lee and with their names spelled kind of like Bruce Lee, just to get people who liked Bruce Lee to go see it to make money off of it. It is a can of worms like you wouldn't believe.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What a scheme. I mean, like, that's why I'm saying it could never happen because these were intentionally movies to try to make money off of Bruce Lee and his legacy. And like
but
the fact
being aware of it too, like they're like aware of what they're doing, yet they're still doing it.
Yeah, I mean, and Bruce Lee was so iconic that it was like his own character himself. Like he was like a superhero.
Oh, he's like, he's a legend. Yeah. Like his legend has like dipped into like folk heroism now. I think at this point.
I mean, they've made even more. They've made serious films about even people that the guy that taught Bruce Lee how to fight. Like what was it called? The Grandmaster. His name of it.
Well, the Ip Man films.
The Ip Man films, yeah.
And then Grandmaster was also about the same character as well.
Yeah.
Directed by Wong Kar-wai, if I remember.
So, like, his legend even goes beyond him. And so it's like they were taking advantage of his legend and his how iconic he was, and were making money off him. That stuff could not happen today. You couldn't have Schwarzenegger die and then somebody to try to step in and be Schwarzenegger again and just keep making
and
money
just
off of
spell
him.
his name differently and just
Yeah,
get people to go see it.
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
You
you know what I mean? Like it would be so. It would be
Yeah.
because I think today people are so they're not willing to put up with that type of stuff. I guess,
Yeah.
but it's such a Bruce Lee is such a legendary icon.
I mean, look at right now how they're trying to remake The Crow. Speaking of Bruce Lee, his
That
son,
Brandon Lee, yeah.
you know, they're trying to remake The Crow, but nobody wants to see that movie now because it's not Brandon Lee, and you know, they're like, oh, you're just trying to copy the first. Yeah, nobody wants to. This wouldn't fly today. That's why it's so unique. Is that this was part of a time where people, you know, he was so popular, and it was so sad that he had died so young.
He died very suddenly, and really in the not even he wasn't even at the peak of his career. Like
he was still
like, in the middle of
on the rise. He was only like 30 years old. 30,
yeah, and I mean, like he had, I think, like Enter the Dragon had just come out around the time where he passed. I mean, like he was still making. I mean, Game of Death is an unfinished movie.
Yeah,
they went and finished it later with like cardboard cutouts, but you know what I mean. Go back and look at it, it's quite comical these days. But yeah, this box set is so fascinating. Just culturally, what it means historically, film history is interesting.
And it's only volume 1.
And this is only volume 1, so they probably have their hands on a bunch of other of these as well. You can buy the documentary just by itself if you just want to see the documentary. And if you, obviously you can get it, like you said, the bundle is kind of sold out. And then you can just get the box set by itself. They got other, like, you can buy books by itself. They got other stuff here on the Severin Films website. But yeah, that's a pretty cool release from them. Let's move to the other side of the world with another box set centric release, and that is the Imprint June slate. We've got a good slate from Imprint. We've got actually a couple of things cooking with Imprint this past month. They've got their June slate, and they've got their Imprint Asia stuff that they also announced as well. We talked about The Prisoner in our last episode, which is their TV thing going on. So they've got a lot of things cooking down there. But obviously, with this new slate from June, the highlight of it is After Dark Neo-Noir Cinema Volume 3. Stephen, how excited are you?
Is that excitement? Is that
Very.
excitement? Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, look. I mean, we're both big noir fans, and these neo-noir sets have been not only, you know, tapping into that, but also just, you know, this sector of films, just the 90s in general, is just like a lot of these films that just have not gotten releases, you know, and have not gotten proper releases. And I love how the set kind of pulls these films out of obscurity, and they're like, this could be noir. You know, this should be considered noir.
Yeah. Since it's a third volume, you would assume we're digging deeper into the whole catalog of what's considered 90s and early 2000s in noir. Yeah. And after having seen all of the films, they are all noirish. We've got 6 films in the set. We've got Homicide from 1991, White Sands from 1992, The Crossing Guard from 1995, Heaven's Prisoners from 1996, Under Suspicion from 2000, and Dirty Pretty Things from 2002. I talked about Dirty Pretty Things in our recent Unwatched pile because I had a Blu-ray of it that's been sitting on my shelf for 12 years. So I decided to take it out and actually watch the movie for the first time. And it is indeed got noir elements in there. Kind of. It is stretching the neo-noir to the extreme. It's more of a drama, but it's got stuff in there. The other films, though, are definitely fall in line with the neo-noir that we know and many of us do love. So the first film is Homicide, which is a David Mamet film. And this film has been available on DVD from Criterion for many, many years. And it's never gotten a Blu-ray re-release by them. And it's never gotten a Blu-ray release at all until this day. Or until June, to be more specific. Yeah. This is a really good film. One of my cinema hot takes is I'm not a big fan of David Mamet as a director. I think he's a better writer. Obviously, he's known as he's a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright. So obviously his playwriting is very, very good. And his screenwriting is good as well. I'm not a big fan of him as a director, but this film probably the best I've seen from him, most definitely. Other films that he's done, I'm thinking of House of Games, which is another film that Criterion's put out on DVD, and I think they've put that out on Blu-ray finally. But he's also done some political films like State in Maine. He's done Red Belt. He's done Spartan, which is kind of an underrated thriller from the early 2000s. And that film, I think, only has a DVD release. I don't think that has a Blu-ray release yet either. Heist is a movie with Gene Hackman, which I thought, which I actually haven't seen.
I believe I have a film of his. I think I want to say Indicator put it out. It's called Oleana.
Yeah, Oleana. Yeah,
Oleana
is, I think, based on his play. It's a very play-like movie.
Yeah,
I've had the DVD. I think is it William H. Macy's in it?
Yep, that's it.
It's him and a woman are basically arguing with each other the entire time. I think
it's like a
professor-student thing going on there. Inappropriate thing going on there. He gets called out on it. They have this argument.
Yeah.
Something that's probably stripped right from today's headlines and stuff like that. But yeah, I remember that because I have David Mamet's films over there somewhere. But yeah, a lot of his stuff has kind of been stuck on DVD. But Homicide is very, very good. It's a movie starring Joe Mantegna. He and Joe Mantegna made a number of films together, including House of Games and then a bunch of other stuff. I think Joe Mantegna also worked with him on Broadway as well.
I meant Joe Montana.
Yeah, I thought about that the whole time too.
Joe Montana. Joe Montana's a quarterback, you asshole. I meant Joe Montana.
I meant Joe Montana. Oh, Waterboy, classic.
Yeah, classic.
So Joe Mantegna plays this Jewish cop in the film, and he and his partner, portrayed by William H. Macy, are involved in another case where they're trying to like hunt down like this kind of drug dealer guy who's also murdered some cops. So he and the cops are after this just drug dealer, portrayed by Ving Rhames, and very young Ving Rhames, pre Pulp Fiction Ving Rhames. And pre-Mission Impossible Ving Rhames as well. That's in 1991. And so, but along the way, they're about to go to like another place to like bust in and talk to some people about this case. Joe Mantegna gets caught up in this other kind of case that is, he doesn't think too much of it. They're driving along and they end up seeing a patrol car outside of a convenience store, and some woman who owns the convenience store, this older Jewish woman, has been killed, and it's a crime scene. So Joe Mantegna kind of goes and investigates with the other cops there, and he's like, okay, when your sergeant gets here, he'll take over, and I'll go on my way. I got another place I gotta be. But what happens is he ends up getting involved in this case, and it ends up leading him down this path of that there's more to it. There may be more to it why this woman got killed. It may be dealing with, it goes down this whole path of dealing with themes of anti-Semitism and violence against Jewish people, which is obviously something that's still to this day still dealt with. It also deals with things like Zionism and stuff like that, and Jewish extremism and things like that, freedom fighting and whatnot. So it's yet again, something that's still dealing with today. And he goes down this path and he kind of gets caught and more engrossed in it while he's also trying to deal with this other case as well. So he's kind of torn between two worlds of his Jewishness as well as his life as a cop, as him being a cop. He's kind of torn between these two things. And he's got to make some tough choices along the way. Very well acted, very well directed. The Mamet dialogue is very specific. Think of dialogue of like Stephen, who wrote The Social Network?
What's his name?
I'm gonna look it up right now. Because it's like his dialogue, and I completely getting
starts with an A. His last name starts with an S.
Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin.
Yes, Aaron Sorkin. So it's Aaron Sorkin-esque. It's very fast, very back and forth. But it's different. Yeah. But it's also different. It's very play-like because obviously with David Mamet's background as a playwright and stuff like that. Yeah. But think of something similar to Aaron Sorkin's type of cadence, walking and talking, stuff like that. I never saw The West Wing, Stephen.
I tried to watch it once.
I've been wanting to watch that show
and
my entire life.
I don't have time for it.
I've been waiting to see if it's going to get a Blu-ray release because I want to get it from my TV collection.
Oh,
And
Jesus Christ.
they've had the show on DVD for many years. They've had a complete series set of that, and I'm just like, is it ever
How do
going to
you
cut?
have room?
Same thing with 24, Steven. I know it's
How
one
do
of
you
your
have
favorites.
room for TV shows?
Well, that was the first thing I started collecting DVDs. I started collecting TV
Jesus,
shows
dude.
pretty early on.
How does he have room for it, people? I don't know how he does it.
Well, I have a different section of
20.
my
Yeah.
house for
As soon
TV
as
shows.
24 gets a Blu-ray, I'm getting it. Yeah, I will get that one.
Yeah, I've been waiting I know I can stream these things right now, but I kind of want to get them for my collection.
Fuck
You know?
that. I still have my DVDs.
Yeah. When I go to my stores, I still see the DVDs. They're dirt cheap now of 24 and West Wing.
Yeah.
But I do have Aaron Sorkin's show Sports Night, which is a TV show probably not a lot of people know. It was the show he did right before West Wing, and then basically when he started West Wing, he had to choose between continuing with West Wing or continuing with Sports Night, and then he went with West Wing. So Sports Night ended after 2 seasons. But it's a whole thing. Sports Night is basically remember the show he did on HBO a few years ago? Newsroom?
Newsroom, yeah.
So it's like Newsroom, but it's in sports. So it's like ESPN, you know?
All right.
Very good show. Very good show. But anywho, Homicide, great film. Highly recommend it. If you haven't already seen if you haven't already seen it, hopefully this leads to a Blu-ray here sometime. That would be awesome. But who really knows? But White Sands is a movie starring Willem Dafoe from 1992. Willem Dafoe is a cop who gets caught up in some stuff that he didn't intend to be. Basically, he finds this dead body out in the middle of the desert, and this dead body has a briefcase full of money.
Wait a second.
Yeah, you've heard about this plot before.
Are you telling me the Coen brothers ripped this movie off?
So I got.
We know that's a Cormac McCarthy book. Is what No Country for Old Men's based on.
It is.
So, did White Sands? Now, was the book written first? For White Sands was made. I want to know, because
No Country for Old Men. Of course, the movie came out in 2007, so it's like the novel. I want to say the novel came out in 2005.
Wow, it ripped off White Sands.
I guess so. So what happens is Willem Dafoe finds this briefcase full of cash, and he wants to find out who was this guy. Why does he have a briefcase full of cash? And what happens is he gets caught up in something, much bigger than himself. Mickey Rourke is in the film. Samuel L. Jackson plays.
So it's Mickey Rourke instead of Javier Bardem. It's Mickey Rourke.
Well, Mickey Rourke plays like this big time, like he's like arms dealer. He's like a gun runner, basically, and that's kind of what this money is involved in. So Willem Dafoe basically tries to pretend that he's this guy who got murdered, and he's gonna carry out what this guy has to do. He finds out that he's got to deliver this money to Mickey Rourke, and he's got to work with Mickey Rourke to make a deal. So he decides to basically take this guy's place, and pretend. Basically, he involunteers himself to go undercover for the FBI to figure this out.
So Mickey Rourke's Nicolas Cage from Lord of War.
Yes,
like that guy.
Okay. I will say this: the movie is fine. Like it's got all kind of the neo-noir twist and turn elements in it. Willem Dafoe's character is kind of a boring dude, and Mickey Rourke is way more eccentric and way more interesting of a character, but he gets much less screen time. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio is in the film as well, and she has a little romance thing going on with Willem Dafoe, kind of. The late Emmett Walsh is in the film as well, a little bit. He plays a coroner that works along with Willem Dafoe. Maura Tierney, very young Maura Tierney's in the film. There's a lot of people in here who became way more famous later on. James Rayborn, who was, he was in Homeland, but he passed away as well. But I think he was the vice president in Independence Day. Yes. He was also in The Talented Mr. Ripley. He was in Scent of a Woman. He plays I think he's the headmaster of the school that Chris O'Donnell goes to. And they have that whole big student court scene at the end. James Rayborn's in it. Always a great character actor. It was nice to see him on screen once again. But moving on, The Crossing Guard is a movie directed by Sean Penn starring Jack Nicholson.
Jack.
Jack Nicholson would also go on to be in Sean Penn's movie The Pledge, which came out in 2001. These are kind of really dark, dramatic, doldrum types of films. This movie is dealing with Jack Nicholson going through a grieving process, going through alcoholism. Basically, his daughter died got hit by a drunk driver several years earlier. And now the drunk driver's getting out of prison, and Jack Nicholson wants to kill the guy. And he's basically going through the mental trials of handling all of that. And he's not dealing with it too well, Stephen. He basically spends his days he runs a jewelry store, but he spends his nights just, getting drunk and hanging out with and paying women to hang out with him. And he's a mess of a guy. He's also estranged from his ex-wife. The movie has a really good cast in it as well, other than Jack Nicholson. I'm trying to, the actor who plays the person who Jack Nicholson is trying to kill is David Morse, who is another good character actor.
Yeah.
David Morse, I remember him being in Apollo 13. He's one of the astronauts in Apollo 13. He was in Disturbia. He plays the next door neighbor who may or may not be a murderer that
he's
Shia is investigating.
Yeah, he's also one of the dirty cops in 16 Blocks, which I consider the last
Die Hard movie,
even though it's not a Die Hard movie, unofficial Die Hard movie. That's my unofficial last Die Hard movie. It's the first four, and then that's the fifth one, and then none of the other ones exist.
Yeah, so The Crossing Guard, like I said, it's directed by Sean Penn. Early Sean Penn directed film. Angelica Houston plays the ex-wife. Jack Nicholson has a romance with Robin Wright in the film at one point. Piper Laurie's in the movie as well. She plays David Morse's mom, which is interesting. Robbie Robertson, who just did the score for Killers of the Flower Moon from the band, who just passed away. He's in the film as an actor. I didn't know he was an actor. He's in the film as well. It's a good film. It's obviously a dark, slow, dramatic burn of a film because you're dealing with very heavy scenarios, very heavy situation. You do get a nice parallel story of David Morse's character and Jack Nicholson's character dealing with their lives and just dealing with this overhanging cloud of death and regret and depression and things like that because of the events that occurred several years earlier in this film. Really good film. I thought it was really well acted. Sean Penn, I forgot that he does do some good directing from time to time. He still is directing to this day.
Yeah, I mean, when he's not, doing whatever political thing, he's very politically active. So I don't know what that guy does anymore. He was doing like a documentary over there in the Ukraine last time I saw. Yeah, so
he was doing a documentary in the Ukraine. So the next film is Heaven's Prisoners, starring someone who's also in the news these days, Stephen. That would be one Alec Baldwin.
Oh, that guy.
Alec Baldwin plays an ex-New Orleans cop named Dave Robichaux.
No, do it right. New Orleans.
I was actually just going to comment on that. Alec Baldwin has a very interesting, New Orleans, Louisiana, Cajun accent in this film that kind of goes in and out. Initially, early on, I thought he was doing just an exaggerated Massachusetts accent, and then no, it's supposed to be New Orleans. Okay,
I'm Alec Baldwin.
It's not quite that. But this is a movie where, like you said, he plays an ex-cop, and he is kind of living off the beat now. He's kind of put that life behind him. But of course, something happens that drags him back in just when he thought he was out. Of all places, he lives down in the bayou, so he lives kind of in the water in the swamp area. So one day, he and his wife are just hanging out on his boat or whatever. His wife portrayed by Kelly Lynch. And a plane crash just happens to happen. where he is. So he and his wife go over to help out what's going on, and they pull a little girl out of this plane, and it just so happens that I believe this plane was like smuggling drugs into the country or something like that,
Mm.
and he ends up going down this kind of rabbit hole of, you know, who hired this plane, who's running drugs in the area, all this kind of stuff. So he goes back to all his old contacts, and he ends up, of course, rubbing certain people the wrong way who you're not supposed to rub. And of course, there are some casualties that happen that just dig himself deeper into this mess. You've got one of the local kind of big drug dealers is portrayed by Eric Roberts, who's got like a
Ah,
ponytail going on in this movie. When you
Eric
first meet
Roberts.
Eric Roberts, he's like sparring boxing in his backyard with somebody. Like that's his intro of his character in here. Um, Terry Hatcher plays Eric Roberts' wife, who's like manipulative and she's always flirting with everyone. She's definitely the femme fatale of the movie. Um, and Mary Stuart Masterson plays a character who is kind of an ex-girlfriend of Alec Baldwin, who's also they also still have a relationship going on in some way. So you've got a lot of things being tossed up in this movie.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the premise of here. And then what else do we got in here, Steven? We've got Under Suspicion from 2000, which is a film starring um Gene Hackman. And Gene Hackman's in the film, and he plays this lawyer who's living in Puerto Rico. It's Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico, he he found this body of this little girl, and he called it in, and so this cop like brings him in to like question him about it, like, you know, what's the story, all this kind of stuff, and things are not quite adding up when it comes to all of the details that Gene Hackman is giving. Like he said that he was following a dog, that brought him to the body, but the neighbors say that there wasn't a dog around that day. All this kind of stuff's not adding up. So this whole movie is literally just takes place in this police station where Gene Hackman just getting grilled by the police officer portrayed by Morgan Freeman, and then
Wow.
and his assistant is portrayed by, oh, who is it? It's a very young version of an actor. Is it I'm thinking of Skeet Ulrich, but I'm not sure if it is. No, Thomas Jane. Thomas Jane.
Really?
Yeah,
Thomas
very
Jane.
young Thomas Jane is in this one.
Damn.
This is 2000. This is pre-Punisher Thomas Jane. Um,
Jeez.
Monica Bellucci's in this film as well, and this is like pre, pre Matrix. Remember she was in the second Matrix film.
Damn.
So this is Monica Bellucci, like, oh man, like early on, and she plays Gene Hackman's much younger wife in the film. She
Oh
gets
yeah,
roped into
much
this as
younger.
well.
Yeah.
She gets roped into to this investigation as well, and basically it's just Morgan Freeman and Gene Hackman just going at each other throughout this entire movie of like this investigation,
Does
and
it
they
ri does it rival the relationship in Crimson Tide between Denzel and Gene Hackman?
it gets very contentious because Gene Hackman gets accused of a lot of dirty, unsavory things, and he's kind of got to like prove his innocence or keep pleading his innocence. And Morgan Freeman is just trying to break him. So that's why they bring in Monica Bellucci. Meanwhile, the whole backdrop of this is that Gene Hackman's character has to deliver a speech at this big like police fundraiser or this big fundraiser that's going on, and Gene Hackman is like this big like upstanding citizen in the community as well. So that's a whole big thing that's going on in here. If you like movies where it's just play like and just a back and forth, it's pretty good. You know what I mean? It's also nice to see Gene Hackman in a later role for him
Yeah.
because I don't think he did much after this. I think he did the movie Heist, which was David Mamet, and then he did Welcome to Mooseport in like 2003, and he called it a career.
That was it.
I actually saw him the other day on a social media post. Someone had spotted him walking with his wife in where he lives down in like New Mexico and stuff. Um, yeah, he's long retired, but it's nice. It was nice to see him still around. And then we have Dirty Pretty Things, which I've already talked about, which is great. So this is a really comprehensive, diverse box set of stuff. Cool stuff. Cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's just a time, obviously it's a time that we grew up in, and it's just a time where I feel like we're finally pulling some of these movies out of the obscurity. Like they're just, it was that DVD era, and just so many things just came out and they were gone.
The thing
and
is, for me, is that I wasn't watching any of these movies at the time. I was too young
Well, I
to
mean,
be
like we were
interested.
watching TV. The thing is, like stuff came on TV, and then we were watching so much TV, and that's how we discovered movies that weren't in
I
the
do feel
theater.
like a lot of these things would have been on cable TV
Yeah,
years later after they had come out.
yeah,
Like, I feel maybe not some of the obviously the more R-rated things, but I feel like but even, like, premium cable, HBO, Showtime,
yeah.
Cinemax, I feel like these would end up on there later on. But it's nice to get them on Blu-ray, in some way, shape, or form. But a couple of other ones here that I wanted to bring up before we move on from Imprint. Secretary from 2002 with Maggie Gyllenhaal, is a great film. It's already got a Blu-ray release here, but I thought it's worth mentioning. It's Maggie Gyllenhaal and what's his face is in this film as well, Steven.
What's his
Um,
face?
James Spader. James Spader.
James Spader.
Very erotic film.
I was gonna say,
Very erotic
that's
film.
his specialty of the time.
Yeah, he liked doing that. Between this and Crash, you got a nice James
Sex,
Spader,
Lies, and Videotape.
Sex, Lies, and Videotape as well. The Martin Scorsese Films of Faith box set is interesting to me, but I I already have The Last Temptation, and I already have Silence, and I
Yeah,
know, the other film has
Kundun.
a yeah, Kundun has a release from Kino, has a Blu-ray release from Kino.
Yeah, it's kind of. I
It's a
mean, like
cool concept.
I'm sure it's got some features in there that are exclusive, and I like the set too. But unfortunately for the price, it's not something I would rebuy unless it was in 4K.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and
Um,
I have a feeling Last Temptation may get a 4K re-release at some point,
yeah,
at least here.
Silence needs a
Silence
4K.
needs a 4K release.
Yeah,
I mean, that movie needs more. I think that movie's gonna get um more eyes on it when the Jesus movie he's making now comes out.
yeah,
'Cause I feel like a lot of people went back and saw a lot of his other stuff that was kind of underappreciated, like After Hours and things like that. When
yeah.
Killers of the Flower Moon came out, there's always like a Scorsese talk happening. Rambling Rose is a movie that I was actually waiting to see for years and finally got to watch it. And it's a kind of quasi coming of age film starring um what's her name? I'm completely blanking. Laura Dern. Laura Dern, Diane Ladd, Robert Duvall, Lucas Haas, John Hurd is in the film. This is directed by Martha Coolidge, who directed Valley Girl.
Mm,
So it's a movie that takes place, I want to say during the 30s or the 50s, something like that, where uh, where Laura Dern goes to live with this family because she's kind of a wild child recluse to kind of save her from, I guess, what they say is to save her from a life of prostitution. This family kind of takes her in and kind of gives her a job as a caretaker of the house and like a babysitter of the kids, basically. And Laura Dern, she's kind of, like I said, kind of a wild child, but she also just kind of a commentary on just like a young woman trying to be free, trying to be independent, especially sexually and all of those things. Um, I believe Laura Dern and Diane Ladd were nominated for an Oscar for this. And I think it was the first time, I think it's the only time ever that a daughter um, and a mother were nominated for the same film in the same year for the Oscars, which is very interesting to me. Um, it's a good film. It's a good kind of early '90s drama. Um, yeah, there's a young kid who narrates it, and that's kind of his coming of age story. He has this infatuation with the Laura Dern character because he's like a young kid, all this kind of stuff. John Hurd is in the film, but he plays like the present day version of the young kid, and you only really see him at the beginning and the end as kind of like a framing device.
yeah.
Um, Very interesting film, but yeah, I know the film has been known for years from several people, so I thought I'd give that a bit of a shout out. Last one here, and we're moving on. Fresh is a great film from 1994. I had never heard of this movie. Directed by the same director who directed Remember the Titans. If that needs to give you a sense of something.
Yeah.
Um, this movie's really good. Like, damn amazing film. Like, this is like This is kind of like a street urban New York version of City of God, something like that. Um, it's this young kid who is he's a drug dealer. He's a drug dealer for the local gangs in his neighborhood, and he kind of works for both of them. And it's kind of him just living his life in that way. He's got an estranged father portrayed by Samuel L. Jackson, who teaches him how to be a master chess player, of all things. So the kid is intellectually incredibly smart, incredibly bright, but he's stuck in this, in this not great setting. So it's kind of him trying to navigate this life and trying to navigate this world and trying to kind of escape it at some point through certain manipulations that he kind of tries to do. But it's very dark and gritty. Like a couple of his friends don't make it out in here. It's kind of like Boys in the Hood, kind of like Menace to Society in that same vein. Very good film, but it's more lower key than that. Very really really good. This did get a Blu-ray release here from Echo Bridge about 2013, but that's long out of print. So pick this one up. Highly recommended. But yeah, that's it from Imprint. A lot of stuff to go through. A lot of stuff to go through. Steven, we got anything else before we hit Arrow and
Well,
Vinegar
just real
Syndrome?
quickly, like you said, Imprint Asian,
Yes, yes.
there was 3 films there, notably Hero from
Yes.
Jet Li is a big one.
Yeah, from Yang and Mo, who
Yang
they've already put
Mo.
out that box set from, and they already put out a couple of movies individually from as well.
Yeah.
I have that, I think, on Blu-ray. I saw that in the theater back in 2003. I was like 16 years old, maybe
It's
15,
a
16.
visually stunning movie. Yeah.
Thing is, I went to that movie actually 2002, so I was 15. It was the first movie I ever saw in theaters that had subtitles. I didn't know it had subtitles because I was 15 and an idiot, and I didn't know movies could have subtitles in the movie theater at the time. Um, so I went to it and I was like, "Oh, I did completely surprised by that." But yeah, visually stunning film. Yeah, that's the only one of these 3 that I've seen, and that's the one that I would recommend, especially if you've got all the other, Yang and Mo films from Imprint. This goes right along with them.
Yep. All right. Well, we're heading over to Arrow. Arrow. All right. So Arrow announcements. We got
some good stuff.
Here. So starting with a 4K of another Paul Schrader film. Paul Schrader's just seems to keep getting releases lately.
He's gonna make another appearance very soon as well.
Yeah. And that is the 1980 film American Gigolo, starring Richard Gere.
Yes.
As the Gigolo.
Yes, he is.
And yeah, it's one of them films is like I've heard of this film and I never watched it, and I finally watched it for this. And
did you like it?
Yeah, it's solid. I mean, it's not. It's definitely a movie that Paul Schrader is always trying to delve into dark subject matters, especially about people that have seedy lifestyles.
Yeah.
And in this case, you have this guy who's, if you know what a gigolo is, he's essentially uses his looks and charm and things to kind of make things happen. He can help you make things happen.
He's a male sex worker.
I mean, he's a male sex worker, but he also
but it's also kind of a bit more than that.
He's a little more than that too.
Yeah.
He uses his influence as a way to not only he uses his sex appeal to influence people as well, not just hey, I'll have sex with you, but like it's
he's
a little
also,
more than that.
Yeah, he's like incredibly handsome. He's like arm candy as well for like rich women. But Paul Schrader has made an entire career of these type of characters who are kind of going through this crises, this existential dark crises. We saw it with Travis Bickle in A Taxi Driver, written by Paul Schrader, Hardcore with George C. Scott, American Gigolo with Richard Gere, of course, Light Sleeper with Willem Dafoe.
That was that First Reformed. He did it with the
First Reformed with
Ethan Hawke plays
Ethan Hawke. I mean, he
the
just did it with
priest.
Master Gardener. He just did it with Card Counter. He's kind of doing the same thing over again. But that's kind of his bag. That's what he does. That's been his calling card now for like 40 years. And it seems to work for him because he does it well. I really like American Gigolo. I'm really excited for this release actually because the Blu-ray we've had here is not great. So this one is going to probably look leaps and bounds better. But it's also a 4K, and we're getting some pretty lengthy special features as well, or at least special features in general. This is definitely an hour release I want. We got brand new audio commentary with Adrian Martin, who we've had here on the show. A bunch of other stuff in here as well from a bunch of other people. We get the poster and the booklet, all this kind of stuff. I do want to mention, I think Scott Saslow worked on this one, Steven. Because I saw him comment on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, he worked on the layout and booklet design for American Gigolo, and as well as another one of these releases. So a special shout out to him. Because you can choose from 2 different covers here, and I think the other one is I think it may be a store exclusive.
Yeah, maybe.
It may be a store exclusive, but both of them are pretty good. Both of them feature pretty great artwork. So yeah, the 4K can be found in the US. Actually, they're US only. And the Blu-ray is US only. That's interesting to me. But yeah, I really like American Gigolo. I want to get it. I'm just saying that this is definitely one
you're not going to wait 3 years.
I will wait for an Arrow sale. Especially they got one going on right now, actually, on their website for both the US and the UK website. Some decent prices, some good finds in there. Our friend Celeste Lacabra just did a whole long video, about an hour long, going through everything on their website, both the US and the UK side. That was very insightful, very helpful. But yeah. So American Gigolo, and then the other one that's definitely on my radar, Steven, should be on people's radars, is Withnail and I.
Okay.
Withnail and I. Good film. Very good film. I feel like this is a movie everyone's either heard of and not, or they've heard about it and seen. This stars Richard E. Grant again. I saw this movie years ago. In 1969, 2 substance-abusing unemployed actors retreat to the countryside for a holiday that proves disastrous. It's a British comedy drama type of thing going on. It's really, really good. I know that I think Criterion put it out on DVD many years ago, and it's only been stuck in that DVD world to this point. But yeah, it's very, very good. And I believe Arrow's put out a Blu-ray of it as well. And now they're just upgrading that Blu-ray to their 4K, which we've seen them do with so many different things over the last several years we've been covering them. But yeah, Withnail and I is actually, I've been wanting to add it to my collection for a long time. So this is pretty good. Was there a Blu-ray here as well? I think there was, but it's long out of print. Now that I'm saying that, I think I'm losing my mind. So yeah, there was a Blu-ray put out here by Image Entertainment in 2010, but it's out of print. And you definitely want to get this release from Arrow if you haven't already, just because it's probably much, much better.
All right.
I want to make sure I'm actually...
You got me.
Yeah, it's cool. It's good. So anything else here that tickles your fancy, Steven? I know Night Siren we talked about, because somebody else is putting out Night Siren, if I remember. Because I remember I had to watch it. So,
no.
So Night Siren, of course, I can't spell night or siren. I forgot the T. Let's see. Yeah, Night Siren is getting released here by Dark Star Pictures.
One of the partner labels.
That's why we talked about it.
Yes.
Okay, so and this release here, if I recall, actually has a special feature done by Kat Ellinger. I think she does either a commentary or she does something in the book. As I scroll down here, you would think I would have looked this up earlier. I saw it on her Facebook, that's why. Yeah, new commentary by film critic Kat Ellinger.
There it is.
Yes, and then the last one here, might as well just mention, it's called Mute Witness. You can watch this now on Shudder. It's available to stream on Shudder. Someone, my Facebook friend Michelle Kisner, does writing in the booklet for this one. So that's
awesome.
a special shout out there. I haven't seen the movie yet, so I can't comment on it. It looks horror and it looks good. That's all I can say. But yeah, that's it from Arrow. An exciting but small slate, I would say.
Yeah, it's a little smaller than it's not. There's no, to be honest, even with American Gigolo being good, there's no real like bam, like like
American Gigolo is a nice surprise though.
Nice. It's a nice surprise, but there's no like Conan the Barbarian. There's no like something that just blows you away. Like you're like, usually they have one real big blow away. But what's nice is that we're kind of, I feel like you've gotten through that phase of like tons of re-release stuff. Remember like last year, Arrow, just like every week it was like, we're re-releasing this.
Well, they do slip one in here and now. Like Withnail and I is a 4K.
But that's like old. Like I'm saying like something that came out in the last few years. Like here's the 4K for it now. Here's 4K for this one now. Like all the Argento stuff, like we went through a phase last year where we were doing a lot of 4K upgrading.
Yeah, I can say that the Withnail and I Arrow release, the Blu-ray, which has been available for a while, came out in like 2014.
Yeah, that's fucking 10 years
2015 old. Actually. Yeah, 2015 had the limited edition re-release.
Yeah.
Limited edition. Yeah.
Long time ago. So, all right. Well, I guess, are we heading to Vinegar Syndrome? Is that where we're finishing up?
Yes, if I remember. Unless there's something else here that I completely forgot to mention.
Well, we can say real fast, Paramount Presents doing Chinatown in 4K.
Yes, they are.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
We can say also that Shout/Scream Factory announced a couple of things that were interesting. Matinee, the Joe Dante film that they're upgrading to 4K, which pisses me off because I have the Blu-ray, but also I am happy that more people are going to see that movie. It's kind of great. Yeah. They're also doing RoboCop 2 in 4K. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Right. I know they've had the Blu-rays for years now. So if you're a RoboCop completist, I guess you want RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3, which I have to assume they're going to re-release in 4K as well. So that's interesting. I think they're also releasing RoboCop, the remake from a couple of years ago with Joel Kinnaman. Steven, you remember that film?
Yeah, Michael Keaton's in it too.
Michael Keaton is in it.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind that remake. I know a lot of people
it's fine, but
fans of it.
It doesn't have that Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't have that dirty, gritty 80s.
Yeah.
It really doesn't, unfortunately. So there's that. I can't think of what else there's in there, but those are kind of like the highlights.
Yeah.
They kind of just dropped them all today, but those are the ones that are most interesting to me. Yeah, so let's move on to Vinegar Syndrome because there's a couple of things we got to get through here. Yeah.
All right, so Vinegar Syndrome proper had a few films drop, starting with
anything. I was saying anything.
I was gonna say anything. I mean, like nothing here I've seen, of course. Now,
this is unfortunately this dropped at noon today, and we weren't able to even figure out what a lot of these are.
Which I did get their first two releases in.
Okay.
The Red Rock West and Little Darling. So I got a chance to look at the packaging up close. Love the packaging.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. It might be my favorite packaging, right next to the magnet, the VSU packaging that they do.
That's pretty nice packaging.
It's nice. But this film they got is another Paul Schrader film.
There's the Paul Schrader connection.
Called Touch. That came out, I think,
97.
Starring
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, Bridget Fonda, Skeet Ulrich. There you go. He's
there's Skeet Ulrich.
Ulrich, that's what I meant. Yeah. Tom Arnold, LL Cool J. All the best actors of that time.
LL Cool J's been on TV for like 20 years now.
It's like I think LL Cool J, and I'm thinking like Deep Blue Sea, like he was in Deep Blue Sea.
What's wild to me is I think is I'm old enough to remember when LL Cool J started as, a rapper in the 90s,
Yeah,
but I think there's going to be at least a generation or 2 that just know him as an actor on
maybe.
TV
Yeah,
and stuff, just because he's been doing it for so long. I mean, he was in Any Given Sunday,
yeah.
the Oliver Stone film. Yeah, Deep Blue Sea, which I think was even before that. But yeah, this is '97. He was
He
in
was in the
many.
movie SWAT. Remember
Yes, he
SWAT?
was. Yes, he was. But yeah, he's in
Wait,
this.
wait, no. That's
Sure.
Samuel Jackson. That's Samuel Jackson.
Are you
Is
sure?
he
He's
is
not in
he in
there?
it too? Is he in that too?
I've only seen SWAT like
I know
once.
Colin Farrell's in it.
Yes,
Sam
that I
Jackson's
do.
in it, but is LL Cool J in it? I can't
I
remember.
just looked up the wrong SWAT. Well, because there's a SWAT TV show
Yeah,
now.
there's your show. Yeah.
Of course, the website decides to freeze on me.
Oh Jesus.
Damn you, IMDb! When I need you the most, you decide to be super slow. Yeah, it's Samuel L. Jackson, Colin Farrell, um,
Yeah,
Michelle Rodriguez, LL Cool J is in
he
it.
is in it. Okay.
Jeremy Renner is in this movie.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Bad guy Jeremy Renner.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, from 2003.
Mama,
Underrated.
He's in Mama, I Knock You Out.
That's an LL Cool
No,
J
I
reference.
know it's a song. I'm just kidding.
Nice. But Touch is based on the novel by crime author Elmore Leonard, who wrote Get Shorty,
Yeah.
Jackie Brown, which was Rum Punch, I think is the name of the novel that Jackie Brown's based on, the Elmore Leonard novel. I've been wanting to read Elmore Leonard for years. I remember going to Barnes and Noble every weekend, going over to the mystery section and hoping that they would get Shorty in because they used to have it on the shelf and then they sold it and then they never added another copy ever. And I was like, come on, Get Shorty is great. I really like that movie a lot. But anywho, this movie's based off of that a novel by Elmore Leonard. Um, and yeah, so former evangelist Bill Hill, Christopher Walken, discovers juvenile Ski Ulrich, a purported miracle worker who can heal people simply by touching them and bears the marks of the stigmata on his body. Hill, no stranger to exploiting others, sees a potential fortune in juvenile. Religion and money seem to go hand in hand,
Ah,
and primes him for show business, but Hill's plans go awry when the woman he trusts to seduce juvenile, Bridget Fonda, falls for him, and a fundamentalist Reverend Tom Arnold threatens to put a stop to the whole enterprise. You've got religion, you've got money, you've got betrayal, you've got all kinds of cool things happening here. I think, screenplays written and the movie's directed by Paul Schrader. Yeah, a lot of Paul Schrader available right now. Hardcore just got a Kino release. It had an Indicator release as well. His modern stuff is available on Blu-ray. Um, yeah, yeah. Affliction is getting a Blu-ray release as well. Um, is another movie from the '90s. So a lot of Paul Schrader stuff to go around, and yeah, this cinematograph release looks really good. Like you said, Steven can say firsthand that the packaging is super nice.
it's nice.
The pictures, I guess, do it justice.
It is nice. But anything else here? I mean, like we said, we don't know anything about these movies. We got Lady Reporter, which is another one of these.
It's a Cynthia Rothrock
Yeah, another
action
Cynthia
film.
Rothrock film. Yeah,
Action film from I want to say the '80s. Yeah, she gets caught up in
89, a good year.
yeah, very good. Yeah, this is another kind of Lady Reporter, also known as Blonde Fury, which is a really
Yeah,
cool title. Yeah, she's like a reporter who gets caught up in some Hong Kong stuff going on, and she ends up having to kick a lot of ass. That's kind of the Cynthia Rothrock thing,
that's what
kicking
it
ass,
is.
kicking ass.
Got to find a reason to kick some ass.
I do want to say that the movie, I think it's Paganini, is directed by and starring Klaus Kinski. So I want to see the absolute insanity that this movie must be.
Yeah.
Um, just because he's not only in the movie, which is already unhinged enough, but he's directing the movie. It came out also, I believe, in 1989. Steven, there's a trend happening here.
My year is the year.
Yeah, a mesmerizing biography of the infamous composer as imagined through the eyes of the equally notorious actor and director Klaus Kinski. Um, Paganini explores the violinist's descent into derangement and carnal mayhem. That's about right. That's about right for Klaus Kinski. A lot of special features on here, some interviews and all kinds of stuff cooking with this one. Obviously, the cinematograph releases are pretty loaded with special features. Just going back to that, this has a video interview with Paul Schrader, which is brand new. That's kind of cool. You got a video essay by Daniel Kramer. You've got a commentary with film historian Howard S. Berger and Steve Mitchell. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And I think which really isn't this like, are they up to like 6 releases now?
I think it's five or six. Yeah, I mean, I know they, of course, Little Darlings, Red Rock West,
it's 5. Yeah,
going south,
Dangerous Game.
Yeah,
there's 5 so far, and this is very, very new. So, out of all the proper ones here, those are interesting. Which Story stars a very young Amy Adams is in this film. Is it the Amy Adams? I would have to actually check. Steven, I hate to break this to you again, but this is another film that comes out in the year 1989.
What the fuck is going on?
I don't know what's going on. Either they're celebrating your life, or this is just a happy coincidence for you.
It's all about me, people.
It's all about you. Yeah. Apparently, the movie Witch Story also has the title Superstition 2.
Okay. What's Superstition 1?
Okay, so it's not the Amy Adams. It's a different Amy Adams.
Damn it.
Yeah, I would say that she would have been
just the stock on this movie just plummeted.
Yeah. It's dealing with like witch stuff. Yep.
I would assume so.
Yeah, dealing with witch stuff. So let's move on to the partner label. That's where the heart of the matter is.
Well, I will say real quick. So the apparently very popular label Breeding Skull as well. Where I mean I can't say anything about the movies, but this new release is already sold out. It's
I was
limited, and the standard's only got 337 copies left. The Other Dimension in the films of Fabio Salerno. So their first release was that Blonde Death film.
Okay.
Which, once again, which sold out within a day as well. So apparently, what they're tapping into are
people are
hitting a damn nerve.
Also, and it's sold out with limited edition with 1,000 copies. So 1,000 copies went
in a day
right away. Like this was announced 10 hours ago, less than 10 hours ago, and we're already down to standard edition copies. Yeah, this is The Other Dimension, the films of Fabio Salerno. This is looks like a collection of this guy's films.
Yeah.
The first disc has features, the second film has shorts. And it's a lot of films here, so there's a lot of value in here.
It is, and so I mean, it's obviously a very almost underground kind of thing, because, yeah, I mean, it says, since I don't know if we really even covered these guys too hard, but like since 2004, Bleeding Skull has explored otherworldly cinema through reviews, books, home video releases. We shine a light on independent genre films that have flown under the radar but deserve to be seen for all. So, yeah, I mean, the thing about partner labels is I think there's some partner labels that kind of blend. You got your Saturn's core that kind of blends in with like.
Well, they cover similar grounds. Like a lot of those.
That's what I'm saying.
Like a lot of those SOV films kind of blend with one another. Yeah. So as someone who had to watch many of them, yes, they all blend.
Yeah, some of these labels kind of feel like they're stomping over similar ground, but so this one kind of falls, but they must be tapping into something that that people like.
Well, these are Italian films, like genre. It looks like genre Italian films from 1980 through 1992. I'll tell you this, since we've been covering all the Vinegar Syndrome stuff and the partner labels and even stuff with like Terror Vision and all that stuff, there is a huge fan base for 1980s horror, like underground, like under the radar horror stuff. Like it's people's favorite decade for that genre. Yeah. Like by a mile, like it's not even close. It's just what an interesting decade of explosion of horror in it. Like not even like mainstream stuff. We're talking like these deep underground films. You know what I mean? It's kind of fascinating. It's a whole big education for me, really.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this one is selling out very quickly. So if you want to get your hands on it, grab this one while you can. But some other things here I wanted to highlight just kind of based off of vibes. We're going on vibes today, Steven.
Yeah.
Film movement is putting on a movie called All About Lily Choo Choo or Chow Chow. Sorry if I butchered that completely.
I like
This
Choo Choo. I like Choo Choo.
did you like Choo Choo?
Yeah.
For kids around the world, music is often the only salvation when the pain and anxiety of teenage life becomes too much to bear. I read that first line and immediately added it to my list. Existential crisis, teenage coming of age film. Um, it's got that interesting vibe to it already. Yuichi is in the 8th grade and he worships Lily Chow Chow, a Bjork-like chanteuse whose epic music is lush and transcendent. Yuichi only lives for Lily Chow Chow's big Tokyo concert where the lies and violence can be washed away by the presence of his goddess and her powerful music. But fate has yet another obstacle in store for Lily's devoted fan. Sounds interesting, Stephen. Sounds like music. We all know that music can have a very powerful impact on people's lives. I mean, I think we've discussed it in a lot of the movies that we've liked and bonded over the years. I'm thinking of Sing Street. I'm thinking of the other John Carney films, where music kind of runs people's lives.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
both of our favorite movie, Almost Famous.
Almost Famous. I'm getting an Almost Famous vibe here.
Yeah.
Really am. I know nothing about this movie other than what I just read to everyone. And the label film movement is pretty solid so far, in my opinion. They've been doing some pretty good stuff. So far they've put out actually they put out a lot more stuff than I thought. So yeah, I would kind of trust them based on the reputation they've got and I love the premise. So that's an interesting one. Daniel Isn't Real is another one I heard people kind of buzzing about. Yellow Veil Pictures. Once again, they've got the reputation of putting out very interesting films. So I would definitely give this a watch as well. It's got 3 commentaries on here. That's pretty extensive. Yeah, Steven, I don't know if
I've seen
took a
the
damn
tunnel. We talked about the tunnel when Umbrella put them out on their own label. The kind of found footage horror film.
Well, that's the tunnel.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I said.
I'm talking about Daniel Isn't Real.
Well, I don't know anything about that movie.
Oh, okay then. The movie, it came out in 2019. A troubled college freshman, Luke, suffers a violent family trauma. He then resurrects his charismatic childhood imaginary friend Daniel to help him cope, not realizing how dangerous Daniel is. Interesting film. Also,
I mean, I like the
cast is
premise.
interesting.
I like the premise.
Miles Robbins, Patrick Schwarzenegger, Sasha Lane, who was in that movie American Honey from several years
Schwarzenegger's in the
ago.
movie?
Yes.
Schwarzenegger's son's in the movie?
Yes, he is.
Damn.
Yes.
Does he like grab the imaginary friend by his head? Like, yeah. I know he's.
I don't
big
know.
too.
Does he?
No, I'm wondering. Now I have to see it.
No, I'm kind of interested in kind of this idea of coping with trauma in interesting ways is something that I think is very relevant to today. Because there's a lot of trauma that people go through in their daily lives and in their lives in general, and they find coping mechanisms. It's very, it's something I think is evergreen. Like it always happens. Yeah, this is Arnold Schwarzenegger's son. That's
cool.
who that's in the movie. He's been an actor for several years now. He was just in that show Gen V, which is the boys spin-off show.
Yeah.
He was in that. Yeah. So moving on from there, The Tunnel, like you were saying, Steven, just to hop back on that, is that movie that was released by Umbrella a few years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked about it in
that's why when I saw it, I'm like, oh, that looks familiar.
I think a lot of people look at it as an underrated found footage film. I thought it was fine.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
Like I didn't buy it when Umbrella put it out, and I kind of don't see myself getting it now.
Yeah, and it's got it looks like a sequel as well. The Tunnel, The Other Side of Darkness.
Of course it does.
And
that's kind of like when Rec had Rec 2 and then Rec 3, and then just kind of went on. And I'm like, the first one was so good, just leave it at that. Yeah. So if you can stream it on Shudder or someplace like that, and you're into horror films, then yeah, I guess give it a watch. But I don't really think it's worth enough for me to own. Couple of other things here. But the newest Canadian International Pictures one. One of our members in our group on Facebook posted a scene from it. It looked like unhinged insanity on a children's scale, and I'm like, this is either going to be brilliant or terrible, or both.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what a live action Rick and Morty episode looks like. And then there was this giant rock frog type of creature that like spit out crystals and stuff, and all these kids were like dancing around, and I'm like, this is wild. They were like praising it like a cult or something. I don't know what was going on.
Sounds
It was
amazing.
wild.
Sounds amazing.
I don't know what. Yeah, Canadian International Pictures is doing their like weird like children's programming from the 70s and 80s that I guess only makes sense if you were there at the time. They only make sense if you were
I
there.
don't even know if it made sense then, but
Probably. So, and this is
they
called
just like this is all we got to watch.
this is called The Great Land of Small. That's the title of this.
Okay.
Yeah. Described by Milos Forman as the spiritual father of the Czech New Wave. Oh boy. As the director of the father of the Czech New Wave director, Wojciech Jasny's wow, this doesn't make any sense here. Oh yeah, it says described by Milos Forman as the spiritual father of the Czech New Wave. I guess
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know why this makes sense. Steven, I need you to read this because
Jesus. You asked me to read something?
Yeah, I know. Now you know I'm stumped.
Oh,
so are they saying that Milos Forman is the spiritual father of the Czech New Wave? Is that what they're saying?
Shit. Described by Milos Forman as the spiritual father of Czech New Wave, director Jovis Jani.
Wojciech Jasny somehow found his way to Quebec in the mid-'80s to direct this fifth installment in producer Rock Demmer's Tales for All series, a low-budget riff on The Wizard of Oz and The Never-Ending Story.
I was thinking that. Thinking, is this a Wizard of Oz ripoff, or like it's gonna have something? Just looking at the cover of this, I was like, I'm getting Wizard of Oz vibes.
Yeah. With a strong resemblance to Shelley Duvall's fairy tale theater, The Great Land of Small is a surreal, logic-bending family phantasmagoria that proves to be an ideal showcase for the talents of Michael J. Anderson, who plays in a dual role, Cirque du Soleil, in the animation of Pascal Blaise Productions. Good God, there's so much going on here. Yeah, apparently it has remained largely unavailable for decades, but is finally back to cast its spell on anyone with an appetite for the unusual. Yeah, this movie looks absolutely incredibly insane. Michael J. Anderson, if memory serves, he was in Twin Peaks. He is in Twin Peaks as the guy that Dale Cooper finds in the Red Room who talks backwards. He's the dwarf in the Red Room who talks backwards. And he was also in Mulholland Drive as well. Yeah, that's who Michael J. Anderson is. So what a weird David Lynchian connection here. Came out in 1987. My year gets a shout out, Steven. Got one.
Nice, man.
We got one.
Cool. Man.
Something else cooking down here is Kin-Dza-Dza, which is from Deaf Crocodile. Gotta shout out Deaf Crocodile because they're putting out the most unusual films. If you see the trailer for this film, it looks like the weirdest sci-fi film you can ever see. It says here, imagine Andrei Tarkovsky's Circle Solaris directing Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And you'll come close to this existential weirdness of the wonderfully loopy Soviet-era sci-fi comedy Kin-Dza-Dza. Yeah, it's basically two guys from like Soviet Russia end up on this weird planet and weird things go on. The trailer for this is bonkers, crazy. Movie came out in 86, 132 minutes long. It's in Russian. Yeah, new restorations on here, new video interview, new commentary, all kind of new weird stuff. But that's their thing. They're doing that Eastern European block of cinema that is largely unseen by a lot of us here in the West.
Yeah.
This documentary by Saturn's core, Mom and Pop, the indie video store boom in the 80s and 90s. Orbit DVD is actually talked about in there as well. I think they went there and they interviewed the people who work there. Mark and his gang of guys, people. working there. So that's really cool. I'm always a sucker for documentaries about movie stores and all that kind of stuff. Out in the Ring from ETR Media is another documentary. It's about it explores the rise and history of LGBTQ plus professional wrestlers and representation in the sport. Very interesting. We've got the Glow documentary. We had the Glow series on Netflix, which dealt with women in wrestling, and now we've got the LGBTQ plus community in wrestling. This is a documentary from 2022, so very current. Very interested in that. Quantum Cowboys. I put that on the list, even just because Lily Gladstone is in this film. This is a film of 2022, so kind of a more modern film. And I really just want to see this movie.
Well, I mean the fact that it goes for that rotoscope visual, kind of like what our boy blanking on his name, Waking Life.
Oh, you're talking about Richard Linklater.
Richard Linklater did for a couple of his films where they used the rotoscope.
As Scanner Darkly.
Scanner Darkly. It's that similar animation style. So I like.
Wow. Yes, it does. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the pictures from it. Yeah, that makes me want to see it even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Two hapless drifters, Frank and Bruno, team up with Linda, Lily Gladstone, to recover her land and trek across 1870s southern Arizona to find an elusive frontier musician. The complex quantum time theory is blended with philosophical musings about art as the way we understand our history and memories, with gunfights, horses, dance halls, cacti, and saloons. The all-important cacti. The all-important cacti. And then actually the one that I'm most interested in the most of all of these releases is from the Film Desk, The Spirit of 45. And the reason why I'm interested in it is the Ken Loach film from 2013. Yeah, I see the name Ken Loach and I get it, and I automatically am interested. He's been a director who I got to get more of his work. He directed I, Daniel Blake back in 2016, which has a Criterion release, and I almost always buy it every single time I'm at the Criterion sale, but I never do because I'm an idiot. But he directed Sorry We Missed You from 2019, which is a movie I think ended up in my top 10 the year it came out. I thought it was really good.
It's like him doing a Mike Lee film.
It kind of is, yeah. But of course, it's got his political slant of how, the working class is getting screwed over by somebody, and it's usually like either the government or the corporations or somebody.
Yeah,
that movie's just a big middle finger to Amazon, Amazon, and just abusive practices when it's factories and it's drivers and delivery people and all that kind of stuff, how it basically just turns them into just machines and just grinds them down into nothing. But that's been Ken Loach's thing for years. He's always been about making those type of political films. I remember, I think Ken Loach, didn't he do Kess back in the day?
Yes.
That's also on Criterion. The Kid with His Pet Bird, but of course it's about way more than that because that's just the way he rolls. But yeah, so The Spirit of 45, a documentary on how the spirit of unity, which buoyed British during the war years, carried through to create a vision of a fairer, united society. It's Ken Loach. Ken Loach doing a documentary about British culture and all that kind of stuff makes a lot of sense. So that's The Spirit of 45. Anything else here, Steven? That's pretty much it for what I like.
Yeah.
I'm digging all this kind of stuff. One of these is actually already sold out. Another one. Hey folks, it's the intermission time video party. Did you notice that both the limited, I don't think there's a standard, but it looks like it's sold out in general.
Really? No, there's a standard.
Oh,
they're both sold out.
Oh, they're both sold out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So it was 1,000 limited, and this is the new AGFA release.
Yeah.
This is already gone.
All fucking sold out.
Jeez. Didn't even get a chance to talk about it.
We're not talking about it today, and it's already sold out.
There's a lot of AGFA fans, and AGFA puts out great stuff. Makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense. Once again, the partner labels are doing their thing of being diamonds in the rough constantly. At least we can assume so.
Yeah.
I still want to go and watch all these movies, by the way, Steven. You may have to stop me.
You can watch them all you want. You just ain't talking about them next
We're just
week
not talking about them
or
now.
in 2
What's
weeks from
crazy
now.
is I'll watch them and I'll be like, damn, I should have mentioned this. Damn, I should have mentioned that.
Yeah.
And of course, at the time, I didn't know any of that information.
Yeah, it's okay. All right, well, that is it. That concludes spy number 136 of Chasing Labels. Thanks everybody that stuck around and watched us live. And of course, if you're not here live, you can watch us on the replay on audio, of course, on our YouTube channel for video. And if you want to reach out to us, Andrew, where can they reach out to you?
You can find me on Twitter or X at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel here, Chasing Labels. We just did our most recent on Watch Pile, which I think was episode number 11 with our buddy Tony Michas from the Indicator and Imprint cast, right, Stephen? Yep. We talked about a bunch of films there. Our interview last week we did with Fran Simeone from Radiance Films seems to be rather popular. People seem to like it, so if you haven't checked it out, give it a watch. Always a great time. Radiance is doing great stuff. That's good.
Yeah, and I'll have my March pickup video here probably in the next week. I got a lot of stuff that I picked up this past month, so be ready for a dump of Blu-rays that I've bought this past month that I shouldn't have.
Nice.
It's always stressful.
Yeah, it's gonna be right now. There's a bunch of sales going on. Kino's got their spring sale. Arrow's got an Easter sale going on throughout the rest of this month. It's very tempting. It's all very tempting all the time.
It is. And you can of course find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or find me Letterboxd. You could find me there, Stephen Billings, see what I'm watching. And you could find me on the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it's our Instagram or our X page, and of course here on YouTube. So thanks everybody listening. Thanks for everybody for watching. And hey, keep on watching the movies.
I know I will.